No, did it say I'm live? I'm live, I think.
I got the notification.
Okay. Welcome, live from the Crossroads of America, a talk show about guns, politics, or anything else that crosses my or the panel's mind. Answer questions, put them in the chat, or email me at Rickslifeasiseeit at gmail.com or spottedrick@gmail.com. This is broadcasting from my gun channels page and here and on YouTube. And I do have a Patreon page and all that good stuff. It's in the descriptions below. The links for those, if anybody's interested. Also, all past shows are on Podbean, iTunes, or Stitcher. And this one will be on there within 24 hours of it ending. So, just want to say. So let's get going. Let's see, who we got in the chat so far? We got Rich White, Dead Horse, Clover Tech jumped in there, Gun Loving Grandpa, Travis T, Patrick. They're in there. And let me introduce my panel, my esteemed panel. And up here at the top, we got the one and only Patriot in the Dark. How you doing?
Thanks, Rick. Doing great. Thanks for having me.
No problem. And in the middle of this screen, he hasn't been here for a while because he's a very busy man. We got Clover Tech. How you doing?
Just call me broccoli because I am steamed.
All right. Then we got the one and only Squibload. How you doing?
I'm still here.
Man, on a Saturday as well. Yeah.
Might not be here for the whole show. We'll find out.
That's fine. Drop out anytime. That's fine. Man,
yeah, Saturdays are sometimes busy.
I understand that. That's why I said on Saturday it's strange to see you. You're not here all the time. And then we got the one and only Kingpin. How you doing, buddy?
Hey, Rick. Thanks for having me, man.
No problem. No problem. Oh, hell, hit the wrong button. What am I looking for? There we go. I'll make sure I keep up with my chat. Oh, Midnight Ranger's here. Oh, God. I just see what Clover typed in there. I'm just here for the sandwiches. Now we're going to have a food chat because Midnight Ranger's brought it up again. Every time. So, in my thing, it's, I said we was talking about what's going on this week. Well, I mean, not a lot going on with gun rights in the federal government right now. They're all worried about Trump.
Got the hearings. We had the committee hearings, which
yes, I was getting to that. I mean, they did have the committee hearing on the assault weapons ban. I watched some of that. I thought it was. I thought that sheriff they passed a retired sheriff from Arizona. I believe she's from, said, I will not comply. I thought was pretty good. But listening to the representatives up there, it was a party line on the other side. They were all negative, I thought. I didn't watch all of it because I said I just found it every time he called on a Democratic representative to ask questions, it all seemed biased to me.
No, you're kidding.
Yeah, no. I mean, that's how I thought it. Oh, talking about that, we're getting to that in a minute. But as I was telling Patriot when he first got in here, I wasn't sure I was going to be here at 3 because I went to the old Eckerty Days Festival. Eckerty, Indiana, is where my father was from, and they had this. They were selling hamburgers and crafts and. They had a parade with horses and horse-driven horses with pulling wagons and all kinds of on his parade. And as I'm walking up, I didn't take my scooter. I was just walking real slowly up and down the booth. And guess who has a booth at this rally? The Democrat Party.
Well, they always do.
I just walked on by,
Yeah, your local Democrat and Republican parties, sometimes independents and whoever else, or what am I thinking, libertarian, your political parties. It's not uncommon. That happens a lot with fairs and festivals around here.
Yeah,
Were they selling cream horns?
they were selling little trinkets and stuff with the Democrat, blue donkey on it.
They were selling them. I thought they were the ones promising all the free stuff. What do you think they
Yeah.
were selling?
I didn't see them give anything away.
Well, that's not right. I heard on TV they were giving it all away. I'd walk up and ask for my $1,000 a month. That's what I'd have done.
I think I'm gonna have to drive back here and ask them what's going on.
I'll tell them you'll take a check. That's cool.
Yeah, yeah. What you call it? Oh, Raphael has joined us. Travis T. Oh, Midnight Range. Been a lot of rallies and hearings in multiple states lately, Rick. Gun rights is definitely a hot topic. Yes, at the state level, it definitely is. And that's where I think the fight is at. Because right now, I don't know. I mean, I could be wrong, but my feeling is the federal ones, they put it on the back burner for a week or two while they mess around with this impeachment crap. But the states are fighting it big time.
Alan Gottlieb kind of opened up the gun rights policy conference, talking about some meetings that he had been in, and he was pretty optimistic that we're not going to see there's too much gridlock really between the Senate and the House, and that we're not going to see anything. I mean, he was pretty optimistic about it, and I mean, if anybody would know, I would think he would know. He's pretty well connected.
Oh yes, yeah. I've heard him also on. He goes on Armed American Radio a lot on Sundays.
Right.
Here and there, and he says that. Well, I mean, he has a couple of connections actually in the White House too. So.
But make no mistake, I mean, we got an election year coming up, right? So I mean, if we're not vigilant and if we allow it would be wonderful to take the House back. I don't know if that's even possible. Probable. Let's say at this point. But if we let the Senate slip, we could be in for some hard times too, because we can't. I don't think we can depend on Trump for a veto. He's gonna do whatever he sees as the popular move, and I think if I don't see Trump ever vetoing anything.
No, I don't either. And
if it gets through the congressional process, he's going to feel it's popular enough, and he's going to sign it.
Yeah. Now, here's the thing, though: they're gridlocked, and sometimes that's a good thing because it at least keeps them from taking anything else away, or at least trying to. Or if they're distracted with stuff like impeachment or immigration, or the budget or election or something, that at least keeps them distracted. But if there's another mass murder, well, there will be. If there's another mass murder, or there's a bunch of them again, because we have copycat after copycat, 3 of them in a week or something like that all over, does that put it back to the forefront, and does that break the gridlock?
I don't know. In an election cycle, I don't know. I don't think so. And I've long thought this. I mean, we know. Think about it from a pan out and think about it from a broad perspective. If they really proposed solutions to deal with quote unquote gun violence, and they got rid of quote unquote gun violence, what would they have to beat everybody over the head with? So at the end of the day, do they really want to get rid of gun violence? I mean, they want to be able to use it, right? So I don't know that even your hardened anti-gunners and stuff, I don't know that they want to get rid of guns more than they want to use quote unquote gun violence to beat everybody over the head with.
No, what they'll do is they'll try or succeed at passing these laws that they've passed before that are not effective in reducing violence at all, in reducing crime at all, at making us safe at all. We'll still have access, but we won't have access to as many, or we won't have access to certain kinds, or it'll cost more money or take more time, or your stuff will be grandfathered in, or whatever it is. They are interested in taking stuff away. The violence, no matter what the tool is, will always be there. So I understand what you're saying. I'd say the gun rights organizations are more interested in keeping things active as long as possible, because don't get me wrong, that we need them, but they don't make any money if we got rid of all threats against taking our freedom away. But I don't think that the politicians are interested in keeping it going, because it will always be, even if they did kick in every door and take everything, people would get them illegally. The criminals would still have things would still happen. So I think they're always going to have that, no matter what they try to take away. They're just going to always say, well, now we need to do more. It's like the whole socialism argument. Oh, I know it's been tried before, but we haven't tried it the right way, so let's try it again. So I think they're always going to have that, no matter what laws they pass and no matter how hard we fight.
Well, the difference, I think, when you're talking about, and certainly there's so many Pro 2A organizations out there. Good Lord, I mean, over the weekend I learned of a half a dozen or 10, probably at least, that I'd never heard of before. And one of the things with them that does aggravate me, since you brought that up, is you're right in a way. I don't want to put words in somebody's mouth or thoughts in somebody's head for sure, but a lot of these organizations are built solely on, let's protect, we've got to protect these rights, we got to protect these rights. So if we ever got into a scenario where we did drop crime dramatically, we completely rolled back all of the infringements, and we're just relying upon the text of the Second Amendment, what would they do? And there's still a space for those organizations if they're into outreach and education, because you're always going to have there are people being born every day of the week, right? So I mean, there's always going to be, we need to teach education and safety and this, that, and other. Sadly, and that's my whole issue with the debacle with the NRA, and I got mixed feelings about all that. But what I would hate to see go is they're really the only one that's pushing it to the extent, and has been pushing it to the extent over well over a century and a half now, whereas the other organizations don't. So, maybe if we got into a situation to where there was less, less of a pushback on the Second Amendment front, maybe it would push these organizations into a more proactive role with outreach, safety, and education, which would in turn affect society, which could in turn have a ripple effect and make the country better overall.
Well, so that's by design. I mean, the whole design of it, with the organizations on the Second Amendment side, and then the politicians on the other side. I mean, it's by design. It's just like that mutual assured destruction kind of thing, where we're going to push this far, you're going to push this far, and we know that we both have to be here, otherwise they're not going to have anything to do. So it's by design. They're never going to push. The anti-gunners will try restricting things and pushing it, because they can get a lot done on their side. They think it's just like the stuff with New Zealand, where we banned it, everything's gone, you got to turn it in. Only 8% or whatever turned them in, and they said, well, see, we got this X amount of rifles, everything's great, but now we want a registry. And then all these people are going, oh, well, we're not going to turn them in, we're going to bury them in the backyard, and that whole thing where they're out of sight, out of mind. So it looks like everything is good, and then within a generation you don't have them. So you have to have that other side pushing back and forth. It's just like anybody, just like kids on the playground. They're going to push just as far as they can, because if you're a bully and you beat up somebody, and then everybody runs away, what fun is it? They got to have something pushing back at.
Oh, I'm not saying they're unnecessary. They're absolutely necessary, and I just don't think the fight will ever go away, even if no matter what, because both sides have so much to gain. And I'm okay with the fact that I get, if I want to call it a necessary evil or whatever, but that might sound a little bit too harsh for what I'm trying to say. I'm okay with it. I accepted that long time ago. It's just I agree with what Clover's saying. They could divert to something like safety and education, but there's not as much money in that as there is politics and fear tactic. So
I don't think it'd ever get to that point. I don't think that, it doesn't matter if everybody stood up and pushed, they're still going to have some kind of restrictions and limits, because that's just how it is. I mean, just as many Republicans stood up and said, yeah, we're for that. We got to do something. Just because they know if they put that stuff in, then they got something later on to fight about.
Well, and don't make the mistake either of thinking that we're talking just in the sense of 2A here, because I go back to 1984 and the quote "war is peace," right? Ministry of Propaganda, war is peace. And what does that mean? That means that struggle and strife is the norm, right? Yep. And when that's the norm, you can get things done on all kinds of fronts.
Yeah. Travis T in the chat here, he put, most politicians are not stupid. And there has to be a reason for wanting to do this. So if they achieve their long game and disarm the average American completely, what will be their next goal?
The First Amendment.
See, the thing is, though, it's just like, if people are pushing something, as long as it's in some kind of motion, things can get done. You can have some kind of movement forward or backwards or sideways or whatever. But if that big, I'm thinking of the racetrack out there in Arizona or Nevada, the rocks that slide all over the place. And if they just sit there, they get rooted, things aren't going to move, and they don't want it to not move because they have to have some kind of movement. Otherwise, they don't have a job.
Yeah, but back to, if the GOA or the Second Amendment Foundation, he's great. I'm not so much Second Amendment, but the GOA and some of those others. Like the gun club I belonged to in Rhode Island when I lived there, you had to be an NRA member to join. But the NRA used to give them a couple of $1,000s a year to do stuff for the kids and plus, to buy new targets and all this kind of stuff for to train the kids. They used to bring out the Boy Scouts out there to teach them firearms and stuff. And if we lose, they need to pick that up, and I don't think they're going to.
Well, they don't have the money backing, unfortunately. You've got to look at, man, and I hate to turn this into an NRA conversation, and please, anybody on the panel right there in the chat, change it if you can. But to speak directly to that, the NRA has anywhere from $5,000 to $15,000 grants available every year to a host and a multitude of clubs, ranges, whatever it might be. I couldn't tell you the amount of money that they give away every year. But when we're looking at Wayne LaPierre suits and we're looking at his travel budget and we're looking at all this other shenanigans that's going on, you need to also look at what they're giving back into the communities, which is an astronomical number. Now, albeit it's not nearly as much as it once was. And so that's part of the problem that I have with them, is I think that some arms of the NRA have robbed others. They're robbing Peter to pay Paul. But the NRA is able to pull that off because they are a well-connected behemoth, whereas these other organizations aren't, and so they can't pull off the kind of funding and grant programs and stuff for safety and education that the NRA is able to do. So the question becomes, do you want any of these other organizations that are doing good work with what they do, right? Second Amendment Foundation and the courts, so forth and so on. Do you want these other organizations? Do you want them broadening and reaching out and becoming a well-connected behemoth like the NRA? Because when that happens, the bigger it gets, the more people that are involved, the more power and money and influence the organization gets, the more apt for the corruption and the shenanigans that we see in the NRA are bound to take place. It's just part of the game.
But see, Clover, what you're explaining, that needs to be said, because I don't think enough people in our community understand that or were aware of that or can look at it from that perspective, that you gain something when you have the big organization with all the clout, right? Like being able to remodel your shooting range or being the most impressive person on Capitol Hill. And you also have something when you have that smaller grassroots organization that's appealing. But if they did want to, cross over and do more education and do more funding and stuff, you run the risk. So I'm glad you explained that, because I think there's people out there that aren't aware of that. They haven't been in the fight long enough. They haven't seen enough stuff to know how it works.
Oh yeah, just go get involved. And you don't have to get involved in a 2A organization. I kid you not. Get into any organization in your community, whatever, any type of charitable or nonprofit organization, and you'll see it real quick. You'll see exactly what I'm talking about.
Oh yeah. I'm gonna. Yeah, go on.
Oh, am I unmuted?
No.
Sorry.
We can hear you.
Oh, okay. I wanted to just bring something up that I hadn't seen in this. I don't know if it's been going on for a long time, but just in the last 2 weeks, I've noticed that whatever you feel about colleges, MSU here in Michigan, right? They've got their sporting clays, their team, but I've looked into it, and they've been pushing it hard in the last 2 weeks. But they actually cover a lot of the high schools, and kind of obviously pre-college years and stuff. And I thought that was really interesting because I'd never seen that before. I mean, I knew,
Like
college.
Talking about almost like a scouting type thing.
It was like, they were talking about, hey, check out the, MSU sporting clays. But we are sponsoring, or, there's a lot of stuff to it. But yeah, basically, looking for kids and helping out with the schools and that.
Nice.
I mean, my local school, I had mentioned it to you, Clover, about the archery program that they have. And it's in the basement. You think, because of the weather, this time of year or whatever,
right.
Up here we get a little bit of snow once in a while. So, but it was just interesting that stuff last year, I didn't hear anything about it. I do the same things. I looked at the same places and stuff, and it was just interesting. I don't know if you've seen that, Squib, anything about, local stuff. Like my school, they don't have, a quote unquote shooting team kind of thing, rifles or anything. But I didn't know if that was something that just popped up recently, or if it's just something I noticed.
My high school got rid of the trap club, I think, a year or two before I got into ninth grade. And I wasn't even aware that any of them in Michigan were still doing it at this point. I didn't even know that Michigan State had a skeet or trap team.
Exactly. That's why it kind of caught me, just because it was, I seen it on Facebook, which I don't play with Facebook.
Too many people, and this is one thing, and I can speak to this directly. Too many people are focused so much on the political side of 2A and firearm ownership that it's we've got our segments. We all know that. We've got, call them divisions, call them whatever you want, right? We've got the hard 2A people. We've got the FUDs. We've got the hunters. We've got the sports shooters. We've got the defensive, people, whatever you might be. And it seems like the political 2A and the defensive encompass about 85% of all thought, traffic, exposure, advertising, whatever that's out there. And so when that happens, things like shooting sports and like we were talking about with these grant programs and all these other things, they don't get the exposure that they need for people to understand that it's not as bad out there as what people might think. There's tons of colleges, universities, high schools, as well, and those are institutional places, which is amazing that those type of places come on board with shooting sports. But then that sparks grassroots level, more county community based shooting sports clubs and things like that, and they're popping up all over the place all of the time. But like I said, it doesn't get any exposure. I mean, look at my Next Generation show. Any of the kids, go through the names. Have you ever heard of any of those kids? One of them, and I won't mention her name. I'm just curious if you're out there in the chat and you're listening, because why not? Let the chat participate. I had one on last season that was on the cover of Time freaking Magazine. Has anybody out there even heard of her? because she was important enough to be on the cover of Time magazine, but yet I bet you 99.9999% of the gun community has no clue she even exists, right? And so that's sad. That's I go back to the old adage I talk about all the time, is that we get so shoehorned into looking at the negative all the time, and a lot of the political stuff, unfortunately, is negative. We get so shoehorned into look. Not that we shouldn't be vigilant with that stuff and paying attention, but we get so shoehorned into that encompasses a large percentage of our time that we don't stop and actually look at other things, other great positives that are going on in the culture and the community.
Yeah, talking about that, I mean, I'm embarrassed to say that I forgot her name, but when I was at the NRA show, she was an actual champion shooter. I think she was 14 years old. She was working the Barry bullet stand. I can't remember her name now, but she was a champion shooter.
Oh yeah.
Was that Bella by some chance? I don't know. I don't know what.
Yeah, I can't remember if.
Yeah.
I know. Kyle 45 would remember.
Was she giving away autographed pictures?
No.
Okay, that wasn't Bella then.
No.
I just remember I was kind of thinking, I don't even know who this person is. I mean, I know who Doug Koenig is, and when Tom Knapp was alive, I knew him, and some others, but it's like, yeah. And I think there were a few others there at the show too that I was kind of like, well, this is great, but the only person in here doing autographs that I'm aware of is Chuck Norris.
Okay, since if I'm going to get Rick's blessing to hijack the show here, of course, can I move into a different direction with this, Rick?
Yeah.
Because there was something brought up at GRPC, and I don't know if I was live streaming it or not, and I haven't run across the guy because I can't even remember who said it. There was so many speakers there, so I don't think it's out in a produced video yet. But there was a guy there that made a point that was interesting. I'm not going to say I agree with it, but I would like to throw this point out there to the panel and the chat, just as conversation. And his take was kind of the same as mine: is we don't give enough credence to shooting sports and everything that goes out there. Shooting sports is the number 2 sport in the world. Shooting sports is. So why are we having all these issues? It's not, firearms are not taboo. If it's the number 2 sport in the world, firearms are mainstream. I hate to tell you. So with shooting sports being the number 2 sport in the world, well, how come more people aren't aware of it and aren't aware of what's going on and how prevalent everything is, right? And his thing was, we got to figure out a way to bring attention to it. And I'm going to throw this out there now without bloviating anymore and say his suggestion was to open up wagering on shooting sports to bring more attention to it.
Yeah, I can see that.
So when I'm at Vegas and I go to the sports book, I could just, put $20 on or something, right?
Heck yeah, $100 on Mickelcheck, maybe. Why not?
Every time I go to the range, people are always betting.
Yeah, I don't see why not. That's not a bad idea. That's not a bad idea at all. Real quick though, before we carry on with that, I just want Ohio 45 is in the chat, and he said it was. I still can't remember the name, but it was 2 sisters who both shooters. But I know one of them was a champion. Is that any clue to you, Clover?
I didn't hear what you said, Rick. I was typing in the chat.
Oh, okay. I said Ohio 45 said it was 2 sisters. And I know one of them was a champion. They were both shooters.
That may have been Emily and Bridget Cunningham. And it also may have been, man, I can't remember her little sister, but Alpha Addie and then her sister. My goodness, what's her little sister's name? I can't even think of it at the time. But yeah, you also got Alpha Addie and her little sister.
Yeah, so. I can't remember it. I'll see if I can find an old NRA thing that might have it listed for next time. So yeah, actually, that's unknown user in the chat said it would be cool with betting on shooting. I think it would be too, especially like if they done like the 3 gun matches or even the other kind of stuff. I mean, you watch like when they're doing the stuff that what's her name, Julie? How you pronounce her last name?
Julie Golub.
Yeah, the kind of shooting she does. Yeah. I put my money on her.
Pro-am. Usually pro-am is a lot of what she shoots. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's not a bad idea. I mean, how do we go about getting that done?
You got me. Get with some brighter minds than mine because I have no ties or understand how the betting world works. So I
Well,
would
here's another thing. Have you ever seen any shooting competition on ESPN or something like that? Because I haven't. I've
not
seen
yet.
some.
It was a long time ago. You used to see the shotgun ones,
Yeah, on
the
what was it,
like night
TNN
shoots
on
and all that
Sunday
stuff.
mornings? Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
nothing that was pushed.
being the number two sport, which I didn't know, you know, sport shooting. How, as you said, how come that's not
And by
known
the
to
way,
everybody?
just so people are aware of this, 10 years ago, a decade or so, maybe longer, it was number three. Okay. It wasn't number two. It was number three. So it has grown, right? Track and field events is number one. They lump that in together. Um, Swimming and diving events were number two worldwide, and it slipped. And shooting sports actually is above it now.
Wow, wow, that's
Now,
something to look into to get that out there.
my question is, soccer is like the biggest sport on the planet. You always hear people say that all the time. And if you go outside the United States, everybody cares about soccer. Is that maybe is shooting sports popular outside of the United States, and we
Mhm.
just haven't got it in here, or does it get not as much attention worldwide as it should? Do you think, Clover? Do you know? My analogy might have been messed up, but like, soccer is bigger than
Well,
regular
most
football, but everybody in
okay,
America cares about regular
most
football.
when I say most popular, I mean people competing in it. Okay,
Yeah.
because what we're talking about here um, is being able to advertise, promote, and bring it to the forefront for everybody else. Correct? That's so. Don't confuse me saying it's popular, meaning that more people watch it. That's
Oh,
not what I'm saying.
yeah,
I
that's
mean,
kind of
more
what I was.
people participate in it
Okay.
worldwide than
Yeah.
anything else, right? But that stands to reason. If you why do you have the sport that track and field? But look at track and field. Track and field is not right, and swimming and diving. How often do you see a track and field event on TV or a swimming and diving event on TV? You know what I mean? And
Right.
that's your top three. As far as televised, as far as fans and that sort of thing, yeah, probably soccer is probably number one. Now, Blind Shooter makes a good point out there that worldwide, a lot of the reason it doesn't get publicity outside of maybe the U.S. Is exactly what he's saying out there. Is that a lot of those governments they don't want it to have publicity
Yeah.
because
It's
they
also
don't
because
want
of
to.
In some of these other countries, you can't have a gun unless you're part of a club. So it would behoove that club to have different events, right? So that's why it might be you might have a lot of participation because that's all they can do there, right?
Yeah, some of those are like regional or like not the Olympics, but those kind of things where it's a cup or something that they're
Pan Am Games and World
yeah
Games and all of
yeah.
that stuff.
So
Yeah.
like the next generation you had with the guy from South Africa. You know, that was what he was doing, wasn't it? He was competition, and it wasn't that he had to prove he was doing competition to be able to do that, right? I think I can't
Basically,
remember.
yeah. There,
It wasn't just
yeah,
anybody just doing it and running down to the range. It was he was part of something.
that's
I
correct.
think.
I mean, they have to with South Africa, if I'm remembering correctly, you basically petition for it, and the
Yeah.
valid reasons are basically hunting and sport shooting.
And do you think that might have a play in it? Because hey, if I want to have a firearm and want to use it, I have to be in a club and I have to participate in the sporting events. That would
It could,
You know what I
but
mean?
that
I mean, if
also
I was in a country and it was
it
like, well,
could.
shoot, if I go shoot on the weekends, I can have my,
It
yeah,
could, but that does not undermine the interest and the amount of
no,
people participating.
yeah, that's
Right.
great.
Well, do you think that uh, it, I would imagine that politics gets in the way from having, an ESPN do a primetime shooting event like they would do Monday Night Football or the World Series or something. Uh, but do you think that if you could get the politics out away, that you could make shooting sports like mainstream? And people would watch that kind of, because I know I would watch. I'd love to watch some really cool, production, like shooting ranges and shooting competitions on television. I think it would be on my TV all the time.
Could you imagine a professional camera crew doing a live broadcast from an IPSC match or something like that? You know, with
Yeah.
high def video and everything
Oh
else.
man, helmet cams, target cams. You know,
how popular was like Top Shot?
Yeah, exactly.
Top Shot was a shooting one. I mean, there's been a couple of them where they're, you know, oh, you got to do this and this, you know, kind of a competition or something. But I mean, I mean, you look at the numbers on a show like that.
Unlike Top Shot, which let's face it was a reality show, right? Highly produced. You know, imagine that professional film crew at a legit match. It's not choreographed, it's not scripted, it's not highly produced, and then people betting on that. It could be, I don't know, I think it could be a game changer. It's definitely an interesting idea.
And I mean, you look at like cooking, and Gordon Ramsay, just picking the name out, has the adult chef competition, and tons of people watch it. It's a great show. And then he has the minor or kid, I don't know what they call them, the youth cooking competition. And from what I understand, the youth cooking competition shows get higher ratings than the adult ones do. So right there, I mean, it's a match made in heaven. You know, you let the adults have their, you know, shooting competition, and then the next season is the youth shooters.
And think of it this way too. You look at organized professional sports now, right? Look at the NBA versus the WNBA, right? It's split. They don't compete together. And which one generates more revenue? Which one has more of an audience, right? By far, the NBA, correct? Then look at collegiate sports. You whittle on down to high school sports and things like that. And that following that fanship, whatever you want to call it, drastically falls, you know, as you move down and stuff like that. With shooting sports, it's all encompassing. You know, you talk about want to be inclusive, right? You have women, you have men, you have youth. It's all right there. So you get that out into the public sphere. You get that out in a major production on a major channel or a major platform, and people start seeing that, and you start having, because we all know, I mean, shooting sports is predominantly been over the years a man's game, but you start putting that out there, and look at how you're going to start inspiring and motivating women and kids and women are already coming on board with the self-defense thing in droves, but look at how you're going to inspire and motivate them potentially. They're going to see that and go, wow, that's something I want to do. That's something I could do. And then on top of that, when you get into the other difference between that and organized sports is the vast majority. I'm sorry, if you love football or soccer or baseball or NBA, go for it. Have fun on the weekends or whenever you watch that stuff. But I'm going to say this, and if I piss somebody off, I piss them off. The rank and file, most of the people that are in those type of sports are all around despicable people for the most part. They're there for the money. They don't love the game. You know, it's just, it's horrible. Contrast that with shooting sports, where the vast majority of people are like you and I, and are just regular, great freaking people, right? Not only are you promoting the shooting sports, but look at the great attitudes and outlooks and philosophies and things that you're promoting as well.
But now, do you think that you should integrate it at some point? You know, today's shooting match on channel whatever is brought to you by the Gun Owners of America or something like that, or called the Gun Owners of America.
I got something even better than that. You have a couple of those destination ranges out west where it's, you know, if you go and it's like country, not a country
like
club,
the Whittington Center or something.
That huge, enormous place. Now, if they, you know, obviously they have their top of the line gun shop and the gunsmith and then the ranges and the classes and the dinners and all that kind of stuff. It's like a destination vacation going there. If they would put something on, you know, I mean, obviously they have the pull that, you know, people are paying to go to these huge places, you know, date night, whatever, you know, you think obviously they have the cash flow coming in. If they could get somebody that would come in and you know, sponsor a, you know, just a match, you know, I mean, they could put that out. I mean, even, I don't know if they do pay-per-view or any of that kind of nonsense anymore, but I'm sure that they could get, you know, if you got a couple of those places just doing some random monthly matches or something like that is put out, you know, and then on top of that, you see these places that it's like, wow, I'd love to go walk through there, where it's just like not a destination wedding is the only thing that comes to my mind. And that's, gives me the shakes. But you know what I mean? Like the vacation spot kind of thing, like going to Bass Pro Shop in Memphis at the pyramid, where you can ride the boat inside the flooded, pyramid. It's like something that you would want to go to. I think that would behoove somebody to mention that.
Yeah, you're talking about up in the spectator sport value of it.
Yeah, because I mean,
yeah,
if you're sitting there and you're watching it, because of course, if that's on, everybody's going to watch it, and then you see that that place is really cool, and then the next place says, oh yeah, well we can do it a little better, and then even the small ones, I don't know, I think it could take off quick, and then just having that, you could add the betting on it later, but.
Well, the spectator sport idea it's valid and it's interesting. It's also a tricky concept because of safety, right? So, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I've seen some shoot houses that you could, and they weren't nearly big enough to house, like hundreds of spectators. I mean, maybe dozens at best. But I've seen some shoot houses that have been built into the ground, basically, and dug out more or less, and you could actually have spectators watching from that.
Even if it's just taped, and streamed or something, I mean, how many people would watch that? They say, hey, this is a closed event, everybody's here, you can't just show up and watch it.
Closed circuit. You're talking about like closed circuit.
Yeah, where they film it, they set it up. It's on a weekday or whatever. All those big shots want to go shoot. Well, I'm just saying that then they could put it out there. Then people would see it, and that would get them excited about shooting. Their
how many people? It's been a long time again since I've been to any type of a sporting event, major league or whatever, pro sporting event. But I got to wonder how many people get such crappy seats, go to those, right, and get such crappy seats that they got to watch it on the jumbotron anyway, right? Because it's not like they can see what's going on. So even if you had an area that had closed circuit jumbotrons or something, at least in between the matches, before and after the matches, the people could interact with the actual competitors. You know what I mean? And then bring another aspect into that, to where not only you've got Pro 2A and potentially industry level sponsors for that, but then interject another part in that too, to where you're actually doing safety and outreach, right? You're actually bringing in people that have local community organizations or leagues or whatever in certain areas, right? And you promote those, and then maybe one of the competitors does some type of a safety briefing. It's kind of like they cut back. If you ever watch coverage, like let's say the Olympics, right? And they'll cut back in between matches while they're setting up stages or whatever the case may be. They'll cut back and they'll talk about a specific competitor. We'll use that time for that competitor not really to pimp themselves out as much as they talk about safety in some manner. Hey, when you're shooting this match, you really need to be aware of, the 180-degree rule. And here's what the 180-degree rule means. And, when you're practicing this, be paying attention to X, Y, and Z. And, really break that down for people and elaborate more on it. That way you've got people watching, but they may not understand it, right? Completely. Yeah. Because how many people watch organized sports and then they don't really understand all the rules, right? So utilize some of that time in between for those competitors to talk about things like that.
And door prizes.
Yeah. I'm just looking it up. That's why I've been quiet. The International Shooting Sports Federation, their World Championship was held last year in Korea. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, it's worldwide,
South Korea, but yeah.
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 Yeah. That's what I meant when I said Korea. That's what I meant. South Korea.
You definitely don't want to be a part of a shooting event in North Korea.
Whole different kind of shooting event in North Korea.
It's not called skeet, but
give a whole new meaning to the term "do or die," right?
Yeah, like the outdoor channels, though. I mean, I still have them or whatever. I don't really watch them much. That used to have Guns and Gear and all those Brownells sponsored shows or whatever it is. You know, they used to have, I guess they would go through, you know, like 3-gun or something, and they would put on a small little section, but it was just, you know, oh, we're going to follow this guy through, and they would just basically give points. They wouldn't show, you know, the whole thing or anything. But I think that, you know, that kind of defeats it if all you're doing is just watching it for a couple shots and see the points and, oh, this guy won. But it wasn't like you would actually sit there to, you know, see how it works, I guess. I don't know.
Right.
I don't
Well,
see
that's
any of it anyway.
one of the things about watching a shooting event in person. I'm a huge hockey fan, but watching a hockey game, unless you're really into hockey live, is entertaining because, you know, checks and stuff like that. But if you take a newbie to a hockey game, they can't see the puck and they don't know the intricacies of the game. So basically, only time that they get to celebrate is when there's a goal. And shooting a sport is going to be the same. If somebody walks up to a target line and pulls the trigger until you hear the bing of the steel, you know, so you'd have to make it like Clover was saying, like one of those clearing houses or whatever that people could go through and do like really cool stuff, so that it would keep the audience entertained.
Well, there are electronic scorers. So if I can get that word out, because it's not easy to say, there are electronic scoring mechanisms and stuff that's out there. So you could essentially have a jumbotron that was showing a scoreboard, and as they was running through, the numbers tick up or down depending on where they hit. At the same time, the clocks, you know, tick in and all of that kind of stuff. All of that is possible. I mean, not to get on $1 Million Man too much, but we do have the technology.
Yeah. Also,
I would
because
just suggest that Death Race 2000, they had a scoring system on that thing too.
I hear an Indiegogo campaign starting up right now.
no, where I was going with that, like Clover was saying, number 2 sport in the world, cricket. To watch a cricket match is the most boring thing you've ever seen. You know, it's great to sit there on a Sunday afternoon drinking your tea or your whatever, watching it, but it's a boring game. But what they've come up with now in England and I think Australia is like a hour and a half match or 2-hour match. Each team has an hour to score as many runs as they want. And they got big screens, you know, blowing off like and cheerleaders and everything to get the crowd involved in it. That's what the gun community needs, something like that.
What's the shotgun that does the hunting, where they throw them across the ground and it jumps out of a bush and all that stuff? It's not skeet or trap. It's they throw, you know, they fling the clays across the ground for.
Oh, sporting clays, yeah.
Is it sporting clays?
Yeah.
Okay.
Where they'll have rabbits go across the ground, yeah.
Yeah, okay, because I to me clays was just up in the air,
That's
but so
a rabbit
that's
is
what that is.
A rabbit is a different kind of clay as well. It's a lot thicker.
Okay, and they bounce them across the ground.
Harder to break, yeah. And if it can't,
that would seem like it would be kind of cool to watch, just, you know, because obviously it could be flying, it could be bouncing, or I guess I don't know.
Yeah, no, it could be.
Yeah, that's something to look into. Just get that up there, and that will make people realize that, you know, it ain't a scary gun anymore. It all works. It all works in our benefit. Yeah. Yeah,
I've always taught with my kiddos and you know, teaching people or whatever. I mean, my adage has always been that, you know, to us, firearms are no different than a baseball bat or a glove or a hockey helmet or stick or something. It's sporting equipment. That's all it is.
And see, you can use that same angle toward the investors or the people that have a product they want to promote. Is, look, this is a money-making. Forget, nobody's getting hurt. There's all kinds of rules and regulations. We have an audience, and it's no different than doing a commercial for a baseball bat. That, you know, the World Series is coming up next, and they're using Wilson baseball bats this year. You know, so it's very easy to keep the argument from being an argument and look at it from, like Patriot says, find out where they're at. And if you need their money and they're money people, show them that there's money in it.
Yep.
And you heard it first here on Rick's Life as I See It.
Yeah. Now talking about that, the professional the professional shooter who's doing this. I mean, I know they're sponsored by Smith and Wesson and that company nobody wants to mention, Springfield, all this kind of stuff. I know they're sponsored by them. They're more like getting paid them. But are they actually, if they win the competition, are they actually winning money?
Depends on their contract. Just completely depends on how all that's set up, and for every individual, it's different.
Oh, okay. What I'm saying is, like the World Championship, it's not a sort of like a $10,000 first prize.
No.
See, that would make it interesting too.
Yeah, gold medal. A gold medal is still a gold medle, and it's still.
Yeah. I understand that.
It's worth a lot of money as a gold medal, but yeah.
But I was thinking like golf. Well, is a boring sport to some
I'll tell you. But I listen. Go ahead.
Yeah, but I was saying golf is a boring sport to some people. But I mean, like, if you win the competition, I think today just the regular run of the mill, pro tournament is first prize is $1 million.
Right. Well, some of the it just depends on the competition. Some of them you win firearms and gear. Some of them you actually do win money. Some of them you do all you get is a medal or a plaque or a trophy or whatever. So I mean, it completely depends. I mean, it's so diverse and there's so many different types of shooting sports competitions that it's hard to nail that down to one particular thing. But I will say, in the conversation that I had with Brian Enos, he was talking back in the day. He did it. He was, you don't get much professional than Brian Enos was, and he was talking about he would win these competitions, win these guns, bring them back home and sell them. And what did he do? He sold them to fund his professional shooting sports career. So I would have a hard problem. I'd have a hard problem doing that myself. But
but if your sponsorship was you were on Gun Company X's payroll, they didn't just provide you with free ammo and a gun and give you all the clothing to wear with their logos all over it and fly you to these things, but you were on their payroll. But they expected you to perform and to not just advertise their product and do the photo shoots and that sort of thing, but you were an employee of the company more or less. So you're getting a salary and benefits and everything else, but all you do is practice shooting and go to shooting events for a living. That's not a bad gig.
Isn't that the shooting team?
No, not at all.
Yeah.
Don't they have those?
Let's be honest. That type of a scenario is a very small percentage of professionals that do shooting sports, but it is out there. Like I said, it's all bound by whatever contractual obligations they make.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
But what I'm saying is, here, commercials, Henry repeating rifle. It's got to be a hunting show or a firearm show in that sort of realm then the TV station will run his commercial. But those commercials need to be run on mainstream TV.
Well, that's another conversation that that gets into really some nerd chat stuff. But something that I was just looking into today had to do with advertisers and advertisers' way of thinking. And a lot of advertisers, they want the best bang for their buck, so they're actually looking. They had rather have their advertising in front of a show or in the middle of a show that is catering more to the demographic that's going to actually buy said product.
Yeah, I can see that. Too. But I was thinking more of trying to attract people into it.
No, I agree, and that's where other things like if you could get into a mainstream channel or a mainstream show or something that highlighted that, then you could technically, I guess, you could run advertisements for that particular thing, as opposed to more the industry side.
Yeah, they brought Talk Shop back on a main channel. That would work.
Could I ask Clover a quick question?
Yes, you can.
Travis kind of said something about it out in the chat. What does a sponsorship do for a shooter? And I guess there could be various different ways.
Yeah, that's very open.
Do they pay the shooter like a salary, or do they just pay for all the expenses and stuff during competitions?
Most commonly, there is absolutely zero payments or salary or money that changes hands in that sense, like you get cash. Most commonly, like I said, there's a small percentage of people that probably have some advertising contracts or maybe something like that with some companies that do get an actual cash whatever kickback. But for the most part, it's like, here, we're going to provide you with this particular gear. We're going to keep you in this gear. We'll keep you upgraded to the new model. We'll, put whatever accessories on it. We'll do custom shop work to it. Here, shoot our ammunition. Oh, we'll custom load this ammunition for your particular specifications as well. Sometimes they pay for travel. They pay for entry fees, but some of the entry fees can get absorbent, especially if you're talking about like shotgun sports. Holy crap! There's some shotgun matches out there that are $500 plus just to enter. So some of the sponsors they cover that, but that's not cash in somebody's pocket, because even if I said, okay, hey dude, I'm gonna sponsor you. I'm gonna pay your fees, and I give you $500 for that shotgun competition. Well, you're fixing to have to go spend that $500, so it's not like you're getting to keep that money. So it's not as if you're getting paid. It's more like you're getting reimbursed or something. And most, like I said, that's a really open-ended question, because it all depends. That's a personal thing. That particular competitive shooter, the deal they strike with whatever company. So who knows? I mean, without being able to get, and I've talked about it with some shooting sports competitors before, just candid conversation with like what their contracts were. They're real hesitant to talk about that, first of all, and I don't blame them. But for the most part, you're never going to know exactly what those deals cut are. You know what I mean? But for the most part, like I said, it's not a pay to play. It's not a cash game, and most of the time, it has nothing to do with win or lose. As long as you show up, you represent that. While you're wearing that jersey or whatever, you show up, you represent that brand well. You've got a good attitude. You take pictures with the kiddos and fans or whoever, and you put stuff out on the social medias, and you do all those type things. Most of the time, that sponsor is going to continue to sponsor you.
And you can have multiple ones too, can't you?
Yeah, most people have. They don't bleed over. They don't bleed over with competitors, right? Yeah. So you've got a firearms sponsor. You might have a grip sponsor and a sight sponsor and an ammo sponsor and a holster sponsor and you know what I'm saying? That sort of thing.
Yeah.
we're on
I'm looking for sponsors.
Gun websites and the G-Webs in the chat goes, for a while, I got paid by sponsors to shoot, but I am too good. So now I just let the other shooters pay me not to shoot. We'll win once in a while. Get this, via a patron. Patreon. So they don't pay me not to shoot.
That's a good way to do it, I guess.
Yeah.
I think this was a good conversation.
I do too.
Something to look at. I mean,
but I want to break it up just for a minute because I want to do the quiz thing. We've been going for an hour, so I want to do now. My question from last week, for it was the winner wins this. It's a, what is it now? A hook and brush set. It's not an expensive one, but it's that, and then you got some stickers and stuff in the prize. And unfortunately, the people who entered, unfortunately, I only had 2 entries. So it's a 50% chance for each of the entries.
Can't beat that.
Yeah, no, you can't. And the question was, in the TV show SWAT, the latest one, not the one from way back in our younger days, the SWAT team, the rifles they carried, I gave a clue away when were HKs. I wanted to know what model they were, and the female in the SWAT team, I wanted to know what was special about hers. Well, they were HK 416s, and Chris is the character's name in the show. She carried an AK that, it was a 416 upper receiver mated to an M4A1 lower receiver. That was and I only had 2 answers. Very disappointing.
It wasn't pink.
What?
The answer, it wasn't pink.
No.
It wasn't? Oh man.
I will tell you who the entries were. One was Patriot in the Dark, and the other one was good old unknown user.
Well, I can I ask a question? How in the world did a woman tote around a rifle that weighs as much as 50 boxes and shoots a 50 caliber? That's what
I don't know. I don't know. But they're doing it on TV.
It's Hollywood. They fill it with helium.
So I'm going to hit the draw button here. And the winner is Patriot in the Dark.
Rigged.
Yeah.
Rigged. I call rigged.
Yeah, you can pass that on, Rick.
But
I was going to do Pink Bedazzled. I thought it was Pink Bedazzled.
Yeah.
With gemstones in it.
Yeah, a little bling on there.
Yeah.
All right. I'll add it. Okay, I'll add it to this week's prize. And this week's prize,
double prize. Getting serious now.
Is I got now most of this stuff came from my. I will mention it. She sent me a swag pack to use for prizes from Alan Anchor. She makes all kinds of stickers, patches, and stuff. I mean, like here, she's got this one band. It's hashtag pro gun as. I'm not going to swear on my show. Oh, my cat just got in front of walking all over my computer. Yeah, so got that. I got stickers. Got my sticker here. I've even got some Rem oil here, and I've got this like what's saying on the band. I've even got a key ring with the same logo on it. So that's the prize for this week, plus what Patriot donated back to the prize. So it's a double entry this week. So the question. You ready? It's email only. Don't go writing 42 in the chat. Okay. You might have to look this one up. In James Bond. Now this one I'm going to confuse you. An author named John Gardner was asked to keep writing after Ian Fleming died in the novels. Right? He changed James Bond's gun 3 times. Then once he got to the one, this is the crucial part here. Once he got to these are written by John Gardner, when he got to the novel Icebreaker, he settled on a gun, and that's what he used for the rest of the for the rest of the books he wrote, for the James Bond novels. And I want to know what gun it was. Make and model, please. Have you got that? John Gardner took over from Ian Fleming writing the James Bond novels. And when he used 3 different guns, but when he got to the novel Icebreaker, the gun he used in that for James Bond then, he used that for the rest of the novels he wrote for that. And I think he wrote, I don't know, another 7 or 8 novels. So I want to know what gun he had James Bond use in those novels. Email me at rickslifeasiseeit@gmail.com or spottedrick@gmail.com. Get it into me by noon next Saturday, and you win that double prize pack. There you go. Moving on. So that's it. I was actually looking at a James Bond question. I came across this. I thought I'll stump him this week. But by the way, it's kind of funny. But my 2 entries from Patriot in the Dark and Unknown User, they emailed me at Rick's Life. They also, both of them together, both emailed me on Spotted Rick. That doesn't give you a double entry. It's 2 one entry.
It's just automatic.
All right, back to our
I was just trying to block it so he wouldn't win this time. So you
Yeah.
would try harder.
All right, let's pick up the conversation. Carry on, guys. It was pretty good. Don't stop now. Where were we?
Oh, you done threw us all
Yeah,
off.
we were done. We were done.
Oh, you were done? Oh, damn. Oh, that was good conversation, actually, I thought. But so we got to get the shooting sports out there. We need to.
Wagering on the shooting sport. So here's the thing: somebody out there needs to come up, build a website today. Get out there, build it where we can wager on shooting sports, and we'll make.
Yeah, but I mean, don't you have to have a license to do?
I have no idea. There's some type of regulation on it. I'm sure. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure there is.
Maybe
Yeah,
if you
well,
live in Vegas, maybe if you live in Nevada, I think, or in Vegas or something, you could probably do it.
Yeah,
There's
yeah.
other things with that too. If you check at your local shops and your ranges, they like mine just last week had $1,000 pot for the top shot or whatever. So you can check around and start moving some things and suggest it.
Well, and one of the biggest things, I mean, everybody out there. Here's the thing. I've said this a bunch of times, and everybody knows it to be true. But I mean, we all get lazy, or we don't utilize every inch of technology we should be using for one reason or another, or whatever it might be. But there's the power that the average person listening to this in the chat on the panel has at their fingertips. Pull up some shooting sports stuff and share it. Pull up some finals from some, collegiate things or the Olympics or world matches or whatever it might be, and share that type of stuff and put it out there. I mean, we can sit around and then we can wait on somebody else to promote and push stuff and come up and put it on TV and have this big platform, or we can try to do it ourselves and generate more buzz and interest. And as we are able to generate more buzz and interest in that type of stuff and maybe the online realms, then maybe a company comes along and strikes a deal with Netflix and starts up a new Top Shot or starts up a new thing where they follow competitive shooters. You never know.
Yeah. Kingpin put in, and I agree with him. He put in the chat, watch and share the Next Generation shows.
Yeah, and speaking of world class shooters, the last episode will be this Wednesday, and we have Ro Reynolds, and he is a member of Team USA. So he's shot in Russia, Germany, Turkey, Italy, down in South America, some places I can't even remember where. He's been all over the world with Team USA. So we got a pretty high profile competitive shooter on to close out this season.
Okay. And you're lining up people for next season?
I will probably after SHOT Show or maybe NRA next year. Because it's kids, I have found that I have to try to schedule that during the summer and get it all recorded before they all go back to school and that kind of stuff.
Okay, I got you.
Yeah, unfortunately, it can't be a year-long thing because kids have just so many different things going. They're regular kids. If you've ever listened to the show, you understand that. They're regular kids, and they got regular kid lives, so they're dealing with school and other hobbies and jobs and chores and you name it. So, yeah, being able to nail kids down for that all year long just doesn't ever pan out. So we'll continue to do it seasonal, and I'll record them during the summer, and then just about the time the school year starts off, somewhere, I don't know, July, August, September. I mean, it's when the season will typically run, something like that.
Okay. All right.
I would like to just mention that, I did that little giveaway for the Next Generation. And since I had so few people actually do it, I did give away a shirt. So,
whoa,
keep your eye out for those little things like that where you actually just go over and you watch them and share them, and could benefit you, and plus it will also help out the kids. So.
Oh, Gene Webb in the chat said, "I am afraid if you bet on gun violent sports." Then that will make the competitors who are already gun violent, betting would make them even more violent and start shooting at each other. Then people would bet on that.
There you go.
One of the things that I think is really special about the Next Generation series is everybody says that you got to get kids involved in something. Give them something, a hobby or something to get into. And when you listen to these kids talk, that you find out just how well adjusted and how, I guess the old saying is, the how well their heads screwed on. I mean, these are some really, really fabulous human beings who, like you said, Clover, are just kids and they just do kid stuff, but they're laser focused. And I mean, it's a really, really cool to see that there's a bunch of kids out there that are into firearms specifically, but it makes you, just as society in general, to hear how smart and how fun these kids are, makes you, it's cool that there's some really cool kids coming up.
Yeah, and a lot of people, I don't know, would see that, and what they fail to realize, I think, is they get this misconception that the kids are focused and disciplined and all that. They're because they're in they went to the shooting sports because they were focused and disciplined, and it couldn't be any farther from the opposite. They're focused and disciplined is a product of shooting sports. And so, I think that honestly, if we can get more of our next generation, heck, more of our grown people, what are you talking about? More of everybody involved in shooting sports. Shooting sports, unlike, I get defensive use, all right? I'm not going to knock defensive use. I'm not going to knock hunting. I'm not going to, and even hunting comes with its own discipline and stuff. I'm not going to knock any of that stuff, but, if we could get more people into shooting sports, then the discipline and stuff that's required, and then the confidence and everything that's instilled if you do well and if you win matches and stuff like that. I think that can be life changing for those attributes, those characteristics that just make up a great person, right? I mean, you instill that discipline and everything else.
And the thing is that there's so much that they can do. I mean, I watched one girl doing the cowboy action, and she was like, 10 or 11 or whatever. I mean, right. Just little, it's just, I don't know. It's inspirational, I think.
Yeah, and that could be very well how we get more adults into it. Quite honestly, I mean, it's a little easier because of the fun aspect and the allure. It's a little easier to get kids motivated, and as you get the kids motivated, I mean, you're going to pull parents and family and community members of that kid into the fray. We've talked about that on the Next Generation before with some of them, as how their school feels about it and their friends and their family and stuff like that. So you're going to pull them in, but if you take it out to a broader audience, then you're going to get some of these grown-ups that are like, man, look at that kid smoking that course. You know what I mean? And it's one of the things where, okay, if a kid can get out and do that, I've got to try it now, right?
And you'll have parents fighting who's going to bring them to the range. It's like, no, you took them last week. It's my turn. Might work out better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I'm just typing in the chat here.
Did I kill it? Jeez.
Yep. Kill the chat.
All the parents, they're going to be fighting. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no,
I would say that
somebody, two people have already sent in the answer to that quiz question, and I didn't think anybody would get it, to be honest with you. But there we go. Shows you what diverse people we have. One of them has actually read all those novels, so there you go.
I would say that for youth sports especially, shooting sport is probably the safest sport you could get your child into. Soccer, you could accidentally twist an ankle by no fault to anybody's except your foot hit the ground at the wrong way at the wrong time. Where in the shooting sport, if you get injured more than, a little slide bite or something like that, something drastically went wrong, and there was a failure somewhere. Where baseball, the ball could slip out of the kid's hand and hit you. A total accident. You're not gonna get shot at a shooting competition.
I could speak directly with National 4-H shooting sports with that, and say that in the 100, and I don't have a calculator in front of me, so I'm going to spitball and guess, 110, 15 year history of National 4-H shooting sports, there's been zero shooting related incidents. Obviously there's been sprained ankles or wrists or slide bite or drop something on your toe or, burn yourself on a hot barrel or, maybe something like that. But as far as shooting related incidents, zero, live fire, I guess you would call it, zero in 100 and something years. So take that to the bank. And yeah, if you look at the amount of injuries, right, we're not talking fatalities or anything like that, but just simple injuries. Shooting sports is way, way, way down on the list. And oddly enough, archery, which is I consider a part of the shooting sports, and I know Patriot talked about that a little bit with his daughter's school and starting a program. Archery is actually considerably more dangerous than firearms. And it's really weird because archery is sort of like that gateway drug to get people into shooting sports because it seems safe, right? It's not a scary firearm. It's a bow and arrow that the Indians used, or that's on the Hunger Games, or whatever the case may be, or Hawkeye on the Avengers or something like that. And so it seems safe because it doesn't fire a projectile in that sense. And bows and arrows have not been demonized in society and culture like firearms have. But when you get down to the reality of it, think about a bow and arrow for a minute and think about, from an injury standpoint, think about the sharp edges, the points, the everything else that you're dealing with on a regular basis with bows and arrows. And then you quickly start to realize, especially in a crowd or in a group, you start to realize how more injuries occur with archery than with firearms.
Yeah.
I have or have not shot a stand-up chest freezer in my grandparents' basement because the bale was sitting on top accidentally. It was my cousin. I will stand by that. Starting us out 50.
Gentlemen, I'm glad you're all still here because I've got to revise I stated my question slightly wrong.
Uh-oh.
Right?
Rigged.
No. When I said the novel Icebreaker, it was the novels after Icebreaker.
Hashtag fake quiz.
So I do apologize for, the one person that got it right anyway, because he must have understood what I was trying to say. And another one gave me the wrong answer, but they're right on what I said. But it's the novels after Icebreaker. I misread my question, so I do apologize.
You could just send Patriot stuff directly every week and stop with this quiz.
I like doing the quiz. I really do. But I just wanted to put that out there, so I'm sorry, guys. So it's the books after Icebreaker. Yeah, I did. When I was reading it off my thing where I got it, I sort of skipped that part. I skimmed over it. So, but your eyes see things that you don't realize sometimes, So, I do apologize. Who we lost? Squib.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
He wanted to see how to go from here on out. We'll just say he agrees with anything I say. Okay, that's how we're going to work this.
All right, guys, I'm going to wind it up. There was a question in the chat a little while ago. It was asked what I was having for lunch or dinner. Mm-hmm. Well, when I was at the Old Eckerty Days Festival, or whatever you want to call it today, there was a guy selling a barbecued chicken.
There you go.
So I bought chicken.
That's what I had last night.
So that's what I'm having for dinner. I brought it home with me, and that's what I'm going to eat.
There you go.
And I can't wait. Now, the full dinner was barbecue chicken, baked beans, and the god-awful macaroni and cheese.
What was wrong with it?
So I told him, just give me the chicken and the beans.
So what was wrong with the macaroni and cheese? You don't like it?
I can't stand it. I personally don't like macaroni and cheese.
You don't care for cheese anyway, right?
Oh, no.
Oh, you do? Or is it the pasta you don't care for?
The last night and the night before, I actually made grilled cheese sandwiches.
Oh, there you go.
I do eat them.
So do you not like pasta, or what is it that you don't like about it?
The only kind of pasta I like eating is when you make it with, I can never pronounce it correctly. When you have it with meatballs.
Oh, okay. I got you. Yeah.
Yeah. But with cheese, gooey cheese. Oh God, no! Please. Oh, it's time for me to lose something again. I'm talking about macaroni and cheese.
That's just un-American. It's un-American, Rick. That's all I'm gonna say.
Yeah, that's what I heard. That's what I heard. But we have some un-Americans in here because we have a certain person that doesn't like mayonnaise.
Yeah, I don't like mayonnaise, so
that's un-American to me.
It's a wash, I guess. Then I don't like mayonnaise, so yeah.
You don't like mayonnaise either?
I don't want my eggs in liquid form. No, I'm good, man. Thanks.
All right. Actually, I done it the other day. Somebody in the chat put it. I actually made my grilled cheese. I actually put mayonnaise on the bread and when I threw it in the pan, and it came out nice and crispy.
I've heard of a lot of people doing that. Yeah.
I liked it. It was pretty good. Oh, Rich White doesn't like mayo either. So mayo's not the
user says mayo sucks. So there we go. I don't feel so bad.
Hey, I mean, when I lived in Germany, one of their dishes is, they call French fries pommes frites. Is they serve it with mayonnaise. French fries with mayonnaise is nice, actually.
Huh? Okay. I like my French fries with a chocolate frosty. Thank you.
And a Whataburger.
You're right.
All right, guys, I'm going to call it quits because now I talked about that chicken. I ain't had no lunch yet, so this is lunch and dinner combined. I'm going to be ravishing that chicken. I'll be fighting the cats for it, I think. So I want to say thank you for everybody being here, and let me go through the panel here so they can do some shout outs or plugs. We'll start with the good old Patriot in the dark.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I do appreciate it. Just everybody check out those next generation kids, and make sure you go out and talk to real people, not just on the computer and stuff, sitting in your basement. Get outside, talk to some people. Have a great weekend.
All right. Well,
easy one.
Great to see you jump in here. It was really nice of you. Any plugs or shout outs?
Well, I mean, I didn't mean to come in, and I hijacked the show a little bit, and I did not mean to do that. But yeah, it's been a while. I know you went to every other week, and that kind of screwed me up. And so now that you're every week, you went every other week, and it seemed like anytime I had extra time, it was on your off week, and I was like, well, this sucks,
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it's been a great conversation. I enjoy it. Anybody out there knows where to find me if they need me. So thanks for the invite, and thanks for the show, Rick.
No problem. And Kingpin, any shout outs or plugs?
Yeah, I'm going to give a shout out to you, Rick. Thanks for having me. Always a great time doing your show and having a conversation with you. And I'm going to give a shout out to Mr. Clovertech. Thank you for bringing a really good positive vibe to the show today. And everybody, definitely check out the Next Generation show. It's really good stuff.
Is the Blokes thing still going, or is it over now?
Yeah, Blokes giveaway is still going. You get the Mod 9 suppressor, which fires anything from 9mm all the way up to 300 blackout. The tax stamp is going to be paid, so that's another $200 value there. And then someone donated a Scar Armory bulletproof vest. Unfortunately, it's a it's a size extra small, but Bloke was able to get it on. Plus, if you have a smaller person in your family or in your group of friends, you could donate it to them or sell it, whatever. But it's free along with it. And the most important part is it's going to go help out a really good guy and a good family. A 10-year-old little girl needs some help. And, I'm not normally one to promote using children as your shield, but I don't think that's what this is. I think this is a human being. She's a young girl, and if you got a couple bucks you can throw her away, then I think that you should. And if you got $20 to throw their way, you could win over $1,000 worth of really cool stuff. So everybody go check that out.
All right. Okay. I want to say thank you for everybody for being here. And I'll be back next Saturday at 3 p.m. But in the meantime, if you want more of Rick's Life as I did, I'm back on Wednesdays with Shooting with Disabilities. We go off track on that one sometimes too. So I will see everybody on Wednesday. And I do apologize for screwing up the quiz for you guys, but I hope you understood what I was saying. So thank you all. And hang on, let me find the page. I will say good afternoon or good evening, whatever you're been. I'm going to go eat my my barbecue chicken. So good night, all.
Never fear the dark. Steamed broccoli.